an introduction on how to teach the leave it command, because it's one of those indispensable behaviors that every dog owner and dog should know, right? So we'll just wait a second and see if anybody else wants to trickle in, and then we'll get started. If you guys are with your dogs right now, and I presume you are, and you want to follow along and try this, you totally can. It's entry-level dog training stuff, so it's fun. If you have some treats or some food that your dog likes, I would suggest just grabbing some of that, and we'll see if a couple more people will trickle in, and then we can get started, and I'll show you exactly how you can teach your dog the leave it behavior. This is great. I mean, what happens if you're like sitting there trying to take medication, right, and it falls on the floor? Most dogs will dart after anything that you drop, right? Except for her, because she has impulse control. But I didn't tell her to leave it, so. Anything that's in motion will engage a dog's prey drive, right? So anything that's in motion, so she's following my hand around, even without the food, she's still following it, right? Ready? So we need to be able to build a desire in the dogs to be able to fight that impulse and that desire. So this way we can get them to stop, whether it's medication that falls on the floor or a ball that bounces in the street that they want to dart after. We need them to be able to abandon that pursuit and to do so on command. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. So let's say this is your first time ever training with your dog. I'm just going to presume that everybody here is a beginner. So you want to get the food, and you have to be able to teach your dog a marker word first, right? A marker word is a word like yes that indicates to your dog a specific action that they perform is something that you want them to repeat. So for example, let's say she didn't know how to sit, and I was shaping the sit, so I would shape her back, and when her butt hit the ground, yes, I would say the word yes, and then reinforce it with food, right? So to teach her that yes equals food, you can do this with your dog. You'll just go, yes, food. And notice how fast she moves in when I say that word, yes. She knows that that means I like what you just did right there, and I'm going to pay you for it with some canine currency, right? So if you're with your dog, go ahead and get some food, break it up into small pieces, and just get them to move around the room with you a little bit. And as they move towards you, yes. Ask them for stuff that they do know, like sit, yes. Down, yes. So yes is a marker word, and it's also a release command. So if you're going to use that word, always make sure that you reinforce with food, okay? So after you've introduced the marker word yes, we're going to teach leave it. We're going to do 3 variations, okay? So the first variation, you're going to take 2 pieces of food, 1 in each hand, and I'm going to let her see that I have it and smell it, right? Over here. I'm going to tell her the word leave it first. Then I'm going to present it to her. If she tries to go for it, I'm just going to close my hand, right? So it should look like this. I'm not actually going to say it because she knows what this means. So I'm going to put it in front of her. And if she tries to go for it, I'm just going to close my hand. Then I'll represent it again. Leave it. She leaves it. I say yes and give her food out of the other hand. Did you guys see that? Okay. So we'll do that again. Sit. Good girl. Leave it. Yes. Good job. Okay. One more time for the camera. For those of you who are just joining us, we're teaching the leave it behavior. So I'm going to say leave it. I'm going to present the food. Leave it. Yes. Good job, okay? So if your dog's getting really good at that, or they start looking to your treat hand, the other one, you can switch hands. Usually that is a good indication that they're starting to pick up what the exercise is. So once they get good at that, we're going to introduce another variation of this. We're going to drop the food from about knee height, because again, anything that's in motion engages the dog's prey drive. So what I normally do is I'll position myself in between the dog and the food so that I can beat her to it. So I'm going to drop it, and I'm going to cover it up if she darts towards it, okay? So we'll go like this. I'm going to say leave it. Now if she would have darted towards it, yes, yes. I would have covered it up with my hand, right? Over here. Sit. Leave it. Yes. Yes. Good job. Okay. The third variation, you're going to stand up. You're going to take the food and you're going to toss it between your feet behind you. The reason for this is most dogs will try and go between your legs or around you to get the food. If they do, you can use your body language to communicate with them effectively. So if she shot towards the food after I threw it, stand, I would move into her space like this to get her to back away. Because that really just translates to mean like, hey, this is mine. I don't want you to have that. Okay? So the third variation will be to throw it. That's a bad throw. If your dog doesn't move, mark yes and give the food. And then pick up the ones that you throw on the floor and show that they didn't get that piece of food, right? They got rewarded for not going after it. Good things can happen on the floor, but it's because you put them there, but the reward should always come from you, right? Leave it. Yes. Now, if they're starting to pick this up pretty quick, you can up the ante even more. You can start tossing food so that you're not physically blocking it and in the way. Yes. Leave it. Yes. Free. Okay. So once they get good at being able to do this with food, you can start to introduce different items, like things that you know that your dog likes besides food, like a toy, right? So I might start bouncing it. Leave it. Good girl. Yes. Now, she might be willing to still work for the food, or your dog might be willing to work more for the toy. You can reward with another toy. And then begin to substitute in things that you absolutely don't want your dog to mess with, like on the walk. They see another dog and they like to get barky or over-escalate. You can tell them to leave it. And practicing that with different items in different situations will help your dog to generalize that behavior, right? Out. Good girl. Good job. Okay? This is an indispensable behavior, like I mentioned earlier. This teaches impulse control, and it's one of those topics that is actually in the Pitbull Guide. So if you guys haven't downloaded it yet, we talk about this a little bit under the section training. This is the Pitbull Guide, right? And under the heading of training in here, we talk about... So mealtime food can be used for training and working on obedience stuff. Since you'll have a lot of time, it's a good idea to start having your dogs work for their meals. So that means every time that you work on a command, your dog needs to follow through to earn that food reward. And this goes a long way, guys, with deepening your relationship with your dog and helping them to repattern a new emotional response towards you, because now you're controlling a valuable resource, which is the food, and you're interacting with them in a meaningful way. And so you can change the way that they perceive you. Since you're controlling that resource, you're structuring out your interaction, structured playtime, structured work, and they will start to have a different perception of you as a leader of your pack, right? For those of you guys who have begun e-collar training or have already done e-collar work with me, you can lay this command, you can lay the e-collar on top of it. Come. Good girl, right? So you see, when you get good at practicing this with your dog at an elementary level, like with just food, you can start to do more challenging exercises. Leave it. Yes. Good. Leave it. Yes. Good job. Leave it. Yes. Okay. So the reason Winks is so good, like she stops on a dime, is because after I taught this to her, we laid the e-collar on top of it. So for those of you who are new, who aren't familiar with how e-collars work, they're not shock collars. If you've ever felt a TINS unit before, it's very similar to that. Like athletes will put these on their muscles or their abs, their biceps, and it causes the muscle to contract. And when you turn the stem off, it allows the muscle to relax again. And this tool right here, it has 100 levels on it. 100 is the highest, so you can use it for corrections if need be. But 90% of the time, this is like having a huge leash on your dog, but without the leash. So it has enabled me and my clients to be able to talk to their dogs at any distance, under any level of distraction. And it also has helped us to bulletproof behaviors like recall or impulse control exercises like. So that being said, I'm just going to give you a quick little demonstration of what that would look like. So inside, no distractions, Winx is pretty low. I want to show you how prompt her responses are with the e-collar and without it, right? Come, sit. So this is no e-collar. Good girl. Good job, yes. Okay, now we're going to do this with the e-collar. Sit. Come, sit. Good girl. Leave it. Good girl. Okay. Leave it. Good girl. Good. Free. Okay, so she was actually in pursuit of that, and I told her leave it. I could add stem on top of it to interrupt that prey drive, so that this way it's like being able to tap her on the shoulder and it's like saying, excuse me, I asked you to do something. You know this well, you must comply. And because she already knows the command, the e-collar doesn't teach anything, it just reinforces it and makes it bulletproof. Does anybody have any questions so far on what we have discussed with concerns of the leave it behavior? Any questions regarding e-collar work? Oh, you just noticed that. Alrighty then. So one more time. Sit. Leave it. Come. Yes. Free. Her tail just whacked it that way. Leave it. Down. Come. Yes. Free. No questions? Alright guys, well if you have any questions you can message me directly. And if any of you guys need some help with dog training issues with your own dogs, I do free video consultations and would love to meet you and to help you guys out in any way I can. So I hope y'all have a wonderful night and thanks for watching.